Man, oh man, what a mess last week was. It's taken me over a week to recover from it, to try to forget a little bit about what was going on with all the injuries and all the points crisis. But I still didn't move an inch in the rankings, just up 2 spots to 614, and yeah, it just hasn't been a good little run for us overall. But let's get into it now and have a look at where we're going to move from here. One of the things I was thankful for this week was obviously Keandre Cook coming in with a 68 was beautiful. Even with a pretty tough shooting night, that second one, he still managed a low 40s into a 27, which was great across those 2 games. But my standout was actually Matt Hurt, and saved me from losing cash. And he actually went up a couple of $1,000 as well after that 44 was a really cracking effort. But Doolittle's captain getting injured. We then saw Bannon have a pretty tough second game. Harrison was terrible across the 2 games. Henschel was really solid with the 44. And the bench of Glover making some cash was good. Ulbrich with a 20 was pretty solid as well. Lopez a 14, nothing special there. And then Parker Jackson Cartwright, not his best game, but ready for a captaincy this week. And good thing for Doolittle was that he got a bit of a break here to rest up his knee, and hopefully he's good to go for this round 10 clash. For Bannon, we saw him on crutches no longer than a week ago, and then he was suited up for their game. Australia, he's playing in that the FIBA break, so he's actually playing for Australia during that time. He was suited up but didn't play, so we are waiting for news on Josh, and I hope that it does come in the next 2 days before that first clash on Thursday night with Illawarra and the New Zealand Breakers. Won't change too much apart from maybe bring in one Illawarra player, but we'll see how that one goes across the next few days anyway. But yeah, just not a great little setup. The only guy I'm kind of excited about in my starting 5 right now is Keandre Cook, and then obviously bringing in Parker Jackson Cartwright off my bench is going to be the play as captain. With the 105 in the bank, that's going to be helpful as well. But yeah, we're looking to make some moves over the next few weeks and set ourselves up. But we do have some interesting news, obviously, and that's we're going to start in the guards today. Bryce Cotton is the man on everyone's lips, and obviously for him, coming off a much better couple of games for him, 71 across those 2, and it was much more consistent, which was great. Picked up a 40 odd into a high 20s game, I believe, across those last 2, if my memory it doesn't mistake me. 46 and a 25, so obviously a lower one last game, but down to 323 now. Anywhere in that sort of high 20s is about on par, and then if you can get to the 30s and the 40s, like he has at least 3 times in the 40s this year, he's going to be a guy with 2 more doubles to go, is a really, really good one to have, and is someone that could be a really fun captaincy option as well if you weren't going to go for Parker Jackson Cartwright. But I think it's hard to go against him, and Bryce is going to be a really terrific pickup this week. There's a lot in terms of cheapies to be looking at this week, so we are going to focus on those guys in the higher positions. We just found out that Montrez is going to miss 3 games if he does return, and Kendrick Davis is going to miss 2 games. With Adelaide on the single this week, and then into the double the following week, that means Montrez will miss the full double, and it means Kendrick will be back for the second game of that double game week. In terms of, and the 2 guys we've been looking at. So I think with those guys, probably wait until the week after they do have a single, and then it's a double from there, and they go pretty nuts. So at least by around, 13, they're a squad you really need to be on, and 2 players that you need to be on to be relevant in this league. Before that, it's not going to be a big detriment to not have them in your side. In terms of doubles this week, we do have Sydney, we have Illawarra, we have Perth, and we have New Zealand. So they're the clubs we're going to be focusing on for this week anyway. And then with a couple of trades available next week, we do see Illawarra, we do see Sydney come off those doubles, and those guys could be moved on if you wanted to. But guys like Jalen Adams and Bryce Cotton are the 2 guys you want to look at on this list. And you can go down to a Matt Mooney, for example, but I do think that spend up the extra 50 or 60 and get the premium rather than going for someone that has ability but hasn't scored as well in recent history. But what you're looking at is guys that in Cotton and Adams that can average in the mid-30s, and Cotton can go nuts, and he's having a bit of a, coming back, but had a bit of a tough start. Trey Kell coming off at 24. He's at 270k. I think if you're going to go for the cheaper guy, it's probably Kell over Mooney, even though Mooney has the extra doubles in a row there. Henschel can be held across this next week or so. He played really well during for Australia in the FIBA break, and there's no one else in the guard slot that you should be looking at. In terms of other guys, Casey Prather looks like he's likely to be playing this week. So I think after coming off that good 28, I think you can hold him, given he has a nice low break even or low enough break even to not lose money anyway, and then comes into doubles from next week. In terms of guys on my side that I'm not too excited about, it's obviously Harrison and Bannon. I think Doolittle we can hold on to. Yes, he's going to lose a bit of cash, but the points is what you're going for with Christian. And Lopez with his high break even is a little bit of a worry as well at 57. But we know he has high quality in him. Just the last couple of games haven't hit those targets, but he has a 50 in his game. So he's someone that you can definitely hold on to. But I also understand if you did want to move on from him a little bit early to save the money losses, because we are going to need over 400k, 450k, some really big cash to get the Kendrick Davises, to get Montrezl Harrell. And I can understand preserving as much of the cash losses as possible in your side to make sure that you can get to those guys a little bit later when they're back available, obviously. But Bannon, if he is injured, obviously he'll be sold. And then Harrison, really, really poor across his last 3 games, to be honest. And I'm a bit annoyed that I did end up purchasing him over Pinder in the end, especially when coming into a single this week. But that was the risk, and I thought that he'd be great. But he has looked absolutely terrible across those last 3 games. And does that continue, or does he bounce back and play better? So Harrison, Bannon, 2 guys I'm looking at potentially selling, even if Bannon does suit up, just for the fact that apparently he has a low score in him as well. Not the high upside. I just thought he'd be pretty safe for mid-20s to 30s the whole way. And the 26 in the first game into the 16 in the second isn't super ideal. But when you've got a couple of guys available in certain positions like center and forward, it's there's a good couple of guys to have a look at, and I think it's important to get good doubles across those 2 positions. So Amanza, if you're holding on to him, really, really good. Could start this week, could easily just sit on your bench as well across the 2 positions. In terms of actual guns, though, you've got Sam Froling coming off pretty well his lowest score of the season. He's got 23 as well, but averaging 29. Yes, the break-even's a little bit higher at 62, but I think if he just hits that 29 in both games, that's an easy 58, a nice double that you can get in there, and he has the odd game where he gets a 30-odd as well, and he's very, very solid for your side. You've got Oliver and Pinder, but I do think that Froling is the man if you're selecting any of those 3. Likely it's going to be a 1-week play anyway. What you would want to likely go for, though, is in the forwards with Cooks. That's basically the only other play in the forward position at this more expensive price, coming off a 31, a few sort of average scores, mid-20s, 30s in there for him, but has the big scores in him, and he hasn't had that in a while. So that's where Cooks at 375 becomes a terrific captaincy option as well, like we've seen in other weeks, but a really good guy that could come out and be a winner for you this week. And Darius Days, people looking at him, obviously extremely cheap, but the fact that he has lost so much cash just shows how poor he's been in the last basically month and a bit. His minutes are down from the start. He was up near the 30 mark, and that's dropped to only 1 game in his past 8 there with 29 minutes, and his highest score of 23 since that round 4 clash where he got a 43. So it's pretty wild how that one's playing out right now. And to have 2 23s, a 16, a 13, and 2 9s in that last 7 games there, 6 games there, it's not looking great for him. And can he turn that around? Like, he definitely could, but his role on the side is not the same as it was in that first 4 weeks. So unless I saw it turn around, I couldn't select him. And I think you'd probably have to wait until they have doubles in the back end of the season and his role has changed before I personally would look to jump on Darius Days. Dylan Windler had a much better game, a couple of games there, so he started to make a little bit of cash again. I definitely would prefer to have him in my side over Kareem Lopez, just for example, over the next few weeks. And I do think Aldrich, if you don't have any decent doubles in that center position, I think you can just slot Aldrich in there. He's averaging 18.7, so if you have a couple of them, it's pretty solid, 36, 37 across those 2 games, and won't be a problem at all. But the big news is that of Taco Fall coming over for the Breakers. In terms of Kareem Lopez as well, he does have Mojave King and Max Darling as well that are going to be joining this lineup again. So hopefully he can still get some decent minutes. And if he doesn't, he's going to lose some cash. So he's another one that I'm looking at. If Bannon is ready to suit up, then Lopez could be the guy that makes way for me instead if he begins to be a non-starter. So for example, with their first game being on the Thursday night, I think that if he's not starter this week, he could get lower minutes and therefore could be the guy to sell instead of a Bannon, for example. Because you've got 2 trades to use every week, you may as well use them, especially on guys that aren't performing. And if they were someone like Parker Jackson-Cartwright, I would not sell them just on the single, but these type of guys, they do feel a little bit expendable at times there. Menenga should still be fine. If you got Elijah Pepper, I think he needs to be sold. He'll keep losing cash at the moment. Alex Tui, he has gone up 15k overall, but just an up and down isn't in that Will Hickey situation. Yes, he comes into a double now, but he's just not getting the minutes anymore. And that's been a massive fall from Grace. And I'm very glad I got to sell him at 330 instead of this 268 number that he comes to us with. So just keeping it very, very simple this week. I think still going for as many of the top guys as you can, trying to get some good scores on the park, but getting some guys with upside in Cotton and obviously Xavier Cooks would be the play. I'm not sure if I can get to him myself, but that's the play there in that one. All right, let's just go to the JBFA crew as well. I just want to mention those guys in here. And shout out to Loz the Soldiers, who is currently winning that one. But we're actually the best league. So we're looking at teams with leagues with 14 players in them. We're actually ranked number 1 out of all those types of leagues with 14, which is incredible. And you're looking at total points here, and I'm actually ranked as 614th. I'm 8th out of 14 in the league. So we have Ryan, who's 94th. We have Mark, David, Jared, Jacob, Luke, and Chris all ahead of me between 433 and 552. So there's the majority of these guys are doing really well. Our worst scorer, our worst ranked player is 4,397. So congrats to all those guys. We're third. So first and third in, we got 2 14-man comps. I don't know how many, there mustn't be that many 14-man comps. It doesn't say there. Anyway, but in terms of, I'm leading that one personally, but we do have Reese, Liam, Sam, Darcy, John, and Luke all in a solid position there. And then in the third crew, we have, in total points, we have Jason, Jackie, Tyler, Corey, Ali, and Ross with the head-to-head. I am winning that one as well, with Corey and Tyler in second and third. So just want to shout those guys out there. And then obviously in the Podmasters League, I hadn't gone through that in a little bit, but Matt and Mark in 112 and 115th respectively, with Matt in there at 173. So those guys in the top 200, which is cool, and I've got a few guys to catch up on. But you're looking at total score in terms of me and getting in the top 200. It's looking to get to 3,460, and I'm at 3,377. So 85 points I'm behind that top 200, and behind 112th at 3,491. It's 114 points. So it's not crazy. It's a couple of good weeks to move up to those ranks. It just hasn't all clicked in the last bunch of weeks, unfortunately. So it is what it is. That is the sport. And I wish you guys luck heading into this week. If you have any questions, let me know in DMs or in the YouTube comments. That would be great. If you're on podcasts, jump in the DMs there. And we'll see you when I make my trades. Hopefully we have some more info on Josh Bannon by that point.